For the last 5 to 6 months, I've talked about Dragon Ball on this channel almost exclusively. I've expressed what I think are some of the franchise's strong points, but I've shared my grievances as well. There are a series of videos on this channel where I go over each arc of Dragon Ball Z, but I've never actually ranked them. So in this video, I'll do that and more by ranking not just every arc in Dragon Ball Z, but in every Dragon Ball series. Alright, so first up is the Emperor Pilaf arc, which is basically the first search for the Dragon Balls. I mean, this is the beginning. I think Toriyama did a great job introducing characters that would become mainstays in the franchise for decades to come. From chapter 1, the audience has a pretty good grasp on who Goku is as a character. To this day, he hasn't changed much, if at all. Some people view this as a problem, but I don't. The best part of Goku's character is that he remains the same while changing everyone else around him. The conflicts in this arc were very lighthearted and never really felt like they were in life-threatening danger, and that's the trend that remains for most of this series. A solid start to this legendary story, leaving a lot of room to get better from there. I put this arc in good. I feel the same about the 21st Tenkaichi Budokai. Solid fights all throughout, but the real highlight is Roshi vs Goku. There are a number of twists and turns in this fight, including a Great Ape transformation from Goku, but this fight highlights the importance of wisdom and technique. Another arc that'll go in good. The Red Ribbon Army arc? It's okay. The way Goku took on an entire army like that was cool, but excluding the fight with Mercenary Tao and Goku visiting Korin's tower, I don't particularly enjoy this arc. Now, every time I watch Dragon Ball, I have to remember that this series does not have as serious of a tone in comparison to those that follow it, but this arc just lacked that oomph, you know? And this arc is definitely the least impactful of the series in the long run. Goku's character is set regardless, and with very little development for other characters, I think this arc is extremely forgettable. Following this arc is another tournament where we are introduced to another martial arts school where the master is a person from Roshi's past. Shin's students, Tien and Chaozu, are definitely strong and worthy opponents, but they don't fight with the same morality that Goku, Krillin, and Yamcha do. It is apparent from the beginning that the highlight matchup for this tournament will be Goku vs Tien, but the fights in the interim aren't to be ignored. Goku vs Panpoot shows just how far Goku has come since the last tournament. Roshi against Tien gives the audience the first real look into Tien's strength, and Goku vs Krillin is my favorite fight from this tournament because it not only exhibits how strong they've gotten as fighters, but how much stronger their bond as best friends has become as well. And that bond is directly responsible for the next arc, so I'll place the 22nd Tenkaichi Budokai at the top of good, but it transitions exceptionally well into the first great arc of Dragon Ball, and that's the Demon King Piccolo arc. The stakes finally turn up a bit, and that's not to say Dragon Ball needs to be ultra serious all the time, but I prefer stories where every character's actions have their consequences. I mean, how much longer would you want to see just tournament after tournament? They weren't bad by any means, but I also do not think they could have been much better than they already were. In this arc, we see just how reckless Goku will be when it comes to protecting his friends. We get more insight into the past of the Dragon Ball world with the stories of Master Buu, Taito, and Demon King Piccolo. But most of all, this is the first time we see a main cast member die. It shifts the tone in a big way. This arc also does a fantastic job of laying the groundwork for the next arc as well. I mean, it's a seamless transition into the 23rd Tenkaichi Budokai, which is centered around Piccolo's son. I know I just stated tournament arcs were losing some of their intrigue, but this one is different. We are aware that Piccolo Jr. is a contestant and more than likely will fight Goku in the championship match. But this is the arc where we see Goku evolve physically, emotionally, and as a fighter in a big way. Goku starts to make his separation from his friends, and not because he's purposely alienating them, but it just naturally happens. After 3 years, Goku comes back much taller, so much so that his friends don't even recognize him. Even among strong fighters like Krillin, Yamcha, and especially Tien, who all gain strength in the 3-year time skip, Goku stands head and shoulders above them. And in the tournament, he proposes to Chi-Chi, a girl we hadn't seen since the beginning of Dragon Ball, and it doesn't feel out of place. Goku and Piccolo's fight is great, that goes without saying. And Goku's rapid development flows directly into the next arc where he figures out that he isn't human. So I'll put the 23rd Tenkaichi Budokai in the great tier as well. Dragon Ball ended strong, and Toriyama stayed on this hot streak right on into Dragon Ball Z. The Saiyan arc is one of my favorites for so many reasons. I mean, if we just go through the moments, Gohan breaking Raditz ship, Piccolo and Gohan building their bond, Krillin avenging Yamcha, Goku returning to Earth and taking out Nappa, the Kaioken Kamehameha, Great Ape Vegeta, Great Ape Gohan, it's so many moments to love. But the one that shines the brightest is probably the most important character introduction in Dragon Ball Z. Raditz gave so much context to everything. Every weird, inexplicable, otherworldly feat Goku had in Dragon Ball now made sense. The tail that Goku used to have now made sense. The introduction of Raditz also made way for Nappa and Vegeta, the latter being Goku's current rival and one of the strongest fighters in the universe. This arc is also the starting point for Gohan's personal character arc, which I think is the best in Dragon Ball Z and the most important as well. This is the first Z tier placement on this list, and it's a pretty easy decision. And speaking of easy decisions, I'll just go ahead and do this. It's the best writing in the entire franchise, the best villain in the entire franchise, the best twist in the entire franchise, and arguably the highest stakes in the series. And to top it all off, this arc introduced Super Saiyans. Easy, easy, easy Z tier. Now this next arc is only 7 or 8 episodes, but it feels so separate from what came before it and after it that I think it's its own standalone section. The mysterious introduction of Trunks and the fact that he was another Super Saiyan, introducing time travel, and most importantly, his warning about the androids made me anticipate the next arc more than any other in the franchise. But it's only 7 episodes. And I don't feel right putting it in the same tier of stories that were also great and stretched out over a longer period of time. Before these 7 episodes, I would put this in Z tier, but I can't get over the fact that it was so short, so I'll put it in good, the top of good. If I could use one word to describe the android arc, it would be mystery. As an audience, we didn't know what the androids looked like, and they didn't have power levels. So when that fateful day that Trunks spoke of arrived, the only thing in my mind was that all of the Z fighters were supposed to die. Now Goku actually made it to the fight, so it seemed like this timeline would be different, but once he got sick on the battlefield, you could almost feel the sense of despair from the Z fighters that were watching. But Vegeta's newfound strength and Piccolo revealing how strong he had become, it seemed like the Z fighters had won. But that triumphant feeling was soon disrupted when Trunks informed them that the androids they had been fighting were not any that he'd seen before. This is where the despair kicked back in, because when androids 16, 17, and 18 were activated, there was nothing any Z fighter could do. You know, I was gonna put this arc in good, but I think this deserved to go in the great tier. But the Cell arc, that's going towards the top of good. I think this arc handles Saiyan transformations the best. I'm a fan of the different grades of Super Saiyan and the different benefits and drawbacks of each form. And then of course, there's Super Saiyan 2 Gohan. But what keeps this arc from being in the great tier and maybe even possibly Z tier is the ending. The ending of a story can either greatly enhance or diminish an arc's quality for me, and you'll see that later on this list. The Great Saiyan Man arc. A much appreciated change of pace. Dragon Ball Z up to this point was fast. Lives were on the line at almost every moment. So to see the kid who we all love all grown up and living a normal peaceful life was cool. His interactions with Videl were also unlike anything we had seen in Dragon Ball Z up to that point. I'll put this in good. Now I don't know if most people consider this an arc, but I do. And I call it the World Tournament arc. Bad name, I know. If you have a better name, put it in the comments. This arc starts when Goku comes back to Earth and ends when Vegeta dies against Buu. Easy Z tier. There are multiple great fights, a developing mystery, and the most impressive part of this arc is how well characters were used. One of my biggest gripes with Dragon Ball post Frieza arc is that the number of characters who had an impact on the story diminished greatly. This arc does not have that problem. Now the Buu arc, that's going right in the meh category. After Vegeta's death, there was such a clear change of direction for the story, and the quality dropped as well. The only thing that keeps the Buu arc from being just straight up bad is the Spirit Bomb, which I've stated on multiple occasions is one of the best ways to end a Dragon Ball arc. I think Battle of Gods is far and away the best Dragon Ball movie. The arc isn't nearly as good. It's a rehashing of the movie with subtle changes and worse pacing. This is the first okay placement in a while. The Resurrection F movie is okay at best, and just like Battle of Gods, the anime counterpart is significantly worse. I'm putting this arc in meh. It isn't a Dragon Ball series if there isn't some kind of tournament, and the concept of a multiversal tournament was new and exciting. But when Buu was removed because of a written exam, that should have been a sign of things to come. And then the whole Monaka thing. Unlike the tournaments in Dragon Ball, the fights building up to the championship were not interesting in the slightest. We knew Hit was going to be the final antagonist of this arc, and it was a drag waiting to finally see him fight. Goku vs. Hit is one of the better fights in Dragon Ball Super, but it doesn't stop me from placing this arc in the meh tier as well. My thoughts on the last 2 arcs of the Dragon Ball Super anime are the same, just reversed. The Goku Black arc was pretty good up until Vegito, and with a good ending I probably would have placed it in the great tier. And the Universal Survival arc is just a more grand version of the tournament against Universe 6. In the beginning, I was intrigued by all the new fighters, but at a certain point, there were far too many characters to genuinely keep up with, so I lost some of my excitement for the arc as a whole. But everything after Goku using Ultra Instinct for the first time was pretty good. One arc was pretty boring with a great ending, and the other arc was great up until a terrible ending. I'd put both in good. I don't mean to sound like a broken record, but I feel the same way about the Moro arc. While it was coming out, I thought that it was easily the best arc in Dragon Ball Super. We saw a different type of villain, we were introduced to Mirrors, saw brand new techniques, a crazy twist, and we finally saw Oob, which was something we knew had to happen at some point. But this arc's ending is probably the most frustrating in the series. We basically got Zamasu 2.0, but Whis helped Goku figure it out, and then he turns into a giant? I can't negate everything that happened before this, so I have to put this arc in the good tier as well. And the last arc in Dragon Ball Super is the Granola arc, and meh. Ultra Ego is a cool transformation, and Granola's motivation for his revenge was valid. Those are my only positives for this arc. This arc really makes me question why Ultra Instinct was ever created in the first place. Gas sucks, and so do the rest of the heaters. Oh, I forgot one good thing. This. But who knows when we'll ever see the follow-up for this. And then there's GT. I've gone over each Dragon Ball GT arc in depth, why I like certain arcs and why I don't like others. Click the video on the top right if you want to see that. To me, it's easily the worst Dragon Ball series to date, but the ending is something special, so let's go through this quickly. The Black Star Dragon Ball arc, bad. This is my candidate for the worst Dragon Ball arc ever, actually. The Baby arc, good. Super 17, bad. And the Shadow Dragons arc, it's meh. The superhero arc is fresh and currently ongoing. It's something new and it's solid so far. Not a big fan of waiting a month for every chapter, but it is what it is. If you enjoyed this video, please click the like button and let me know in the comments what your favorite arc of Dragon Ball is. If this is your first time on the channel, subscribe so you know when I upload more videos like this. But until then, this is BigTune and thanks for watching. Y'all have a good one.